Democrat Congresswoman FA'd, and now she's effing O. Charges leveled against one of those screaming maniacs who tried to rough up police officers in front of an ICE detention center. We're going to give you all the details, her reaction, and all the hypocrisy from her colleagues in the House. Also, something huge happening in Los Angeles, something unprecedented. Police officers and law enforcement in LA cooperating with ICE with criminal deportations. Is this the end of sanctuary city policies? Could be. And James Comey speaks. That means his lips are moving. That, of course, means James Comey is lying. We'll break down his incredible interview with Nicole Wallace last night, coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. It's my mug. This July, there's a global summit of what they call the BRICS nations. Let me lay this out here. It goes in Rio de Janeiro. These are emerging superpowers, they call us. I've been talking to you about this for a couple of weeks now. Will you pay attention here, though? Listen to these countries we're talking about. China, Russia, even Iran, India, Brazil. They're meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as global currency. Do these sound like countries that have a lot in common with us? Do these countries sound like they're our friends? They're calling this the Rio Reset. BRICS nations are pushing forward with these plans. Global demand for U.S. dollars could decrease as a result of this. That brings down the value of every dollar, especially those dollars sitting in your savings right now, the ones you're planning on for retirement. Now, this transition isn't going to happen overnight, but the Rio Reset in July marks a pivotal moment when these BRICS countries' objectives may move decisively from theoretical to inevitable. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting my name, Larry, to 989898. Make sure you get my name in there, Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, to 989898. You do that, and you'll get your free no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July because, well, everything might change after the Rio Reset. Text Larry to 989898. Do that today. All right, so you remember that scene in front of a New Jersey ICE detention center ended up with the arrest of the mayor of Newark, who had absolutely no business being there. A whole melee started, and there were a couple of Congress people who were right in the middle of it. They were trying to sneak into an opening of a gate as a bus with detainees was coming through. Law enforcement, of course, trying to protect the facility. These Congress people, by the way, brought a screaming horde of protesters as well. Let those criminal MS-13 gang member New Jersey men out. And, well, one thing led to another. And this woman, Congresswoman McIver, she was caught on video manhandling a couple of these officers. There's been a thorough investigation, and this morning it was announced that she would be charged.
Federal prosecutors reveal that Congresswoman McIver faces several felony charges for allegedly assaulting law enforcement officers.
So she could be looking at possible time in jail. Border Czar Tom Homan says that her actions crossed a line.
I said from day one, you cross that line, we're going to ask for prosecution. You cannot support ICE. Shame on you. You can push back against President Trump's immigration agenda. Whatever. You can't knowingly impede a law enforcement officer, ICE officer. It's a crime. And you certainly can't put hands on an ICE agent. So, she's going to have to pay the consequences for doing what she did. She broke the law.
What you gonna do when they come for you? Yeah, come on, listen. I mean, we've been watching Cops since we were 8, right? We know that one of the things you never, ever do is put your hands on a cop. As soon as you do, the cuffs come out and you're arrested. But that's what she did. And just to remind you, if you missed the episode last week where we showed you this video, this was an exclusive to our buddy Benny Johnson. He got the body cam video, and at one critical juncture, he slowed it down. All right, now it's pretty clear what happened there, and you saw it in the slowdown. That's the Congresswoman in the red jacket. Apparently, that's her signature look. She pushed an officer from behind. There's another video actually that shows her with a clenched fist doing a overhead little hammer punch onto another law enforcement official, again with their back turned. This was after the mayor of New York was arrested, and she went absolutely crazy. And now take a listen to her on the body cam here as she does the whole, "Don't you know who I am? You can't touch me. I'm a congressperson." And from the look of it, she wasn't getting touched until she started roughhousing the cops. By the way, even if the cops did touch her, that does not give her the legal right to touch a police officer back. Everybody knows that. But listen to her go nuts. Did you catch that? I'm going to file a complaint. You can't talk to a congressperson like that. Ma'am, this is America. We are obligated to talk to our elected officials in whatever disrespectful way we want. We fought a war for that. Thank you. So last night, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said after a thorough review of the video footage of Delaney Hall and a full investigation of HSI, the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey has made the determination to charge Congresswoman LaMonica McIver for assaulting, resisting, and impeding law enforcement officers. Sure looked like that's exactly what was going on in that video. No one is above the law. If any person, regardless of political party, influence, or status, assaults a law enforcement officer, as we witnessed Congresswoman McIver do, we all did, didn't we? You will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We thank our brave ICE law government enforcement officers for their service to this great nation. For those of you who think that this is just political and this is no big deal, and I mean, let me just tell you something. These ICE agents have to deal with incredibly dangerous individuals who are in this country illegally and who behave like they have nothing to lose. And when they see a congressperson pushing back and assaulting an ICE officer in this fashion, if they don't get charged, if they don't get dealt with the fullest extent of the law, that sends a message to these criminals that they can do whatever the hell they want. That's why justice is blind. That's why she carries the scales. That's why no one is above the law. I want you to remember what the Congresswoman looked like here in this video, right? What she looked like, how she behaved, what she sounded like. Remember her screaming? You don't talk to a congresswoman like that. Let's listen again. There, you will pay, she said. Well, she's very different now that she's defending herself on cable news. Here she was this morning.
Would you have done anything differently? No, I would not have. Once again, we showed up there to do a job, Kate. We were there for an oversight visit. We have done this before. You know, me, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Congressman Bob Menendez was just at a facility just a couple of weeks ago, not too far from this location, where we had an oversight visit, and we were a little bit delayed, but not, confronted or was in the middle of a chaos to do so. I think, number one, we have an obligation to do so. We have to show up and do our jobs. And at the end of the day, the reason why we were there is because we wanted to make sure this facility was up to par, that it was clean, that it was safe, and that the detainees there were, given due process, that they were able to use the phone, that they were able to speak to their legal representation, which we found out was not happening. But that was our reason. So despite, what Republicans are saying, like, about us, trying to break people out of jail, that's untrue. We were not there to do that. We were there to conduct an oversight visit, which after all of this, the chaos, Kate, they gave us a tour. We were all of this. We broke in, we assaulted people, all of these things that, Haba is saying and Republicans are saying.
Congresswoman.
Well, first of all, hey, doesn't she sound completely reasonable and normal and even-handed and charming? Yeah, that's on purpose. This is choreographed. This is scripted. And she's been told, don't come off like a lunatic, because, boy, she seems a lot different than how she was there in front of the detention facility. I don't know any Republicans who's making the claim that they were there to break criminals out of jail. Somebody may be making that claim. I didn't see it. What I can tell you, though, is that when you've got a detention facility with hardened criminals and gang members, and they're there to be processed, prosecuted, and deported, if you've got chaos there, the law enforcement have to act as though they are protecting the facility from a break. That's the whole point of having armed law enforcement protecting a detention facility like this. Chaos, distractions, craziness, that's not good for an orderly atmosphere and culture at a jail. Also, there's a tell inside the statement that she put out before she went on her media blitz. Earlier this month, I joined my colleagues to inspect the treatment of ICE detainees at Delaney Hall in my district. We were fulfilling our lawful oversight responsibility as members of Congress have done many times before. Not like that, ma'am. Make an appointment, you let them know you're coming, you go in the front door, not through a fenced, protected gate at a parking lot when a bus is coming through with detainees. And our visit should have been peaceful and short. Instead, here is the tell. This is what her defense is going to be. ICE agents created an unnecessary and unsafe confrontation when they chose to arrest Mayor Baraka. So all the melee that you saw, all the craziness, all of the pushing, all of the shoving, she's going to claim that it was because her pal, the mayor of Newark, got arrested. And we're to believe that law enforcement agents just willy-nilly, out of the blue, decided that they would cause trouble by arresting the mayor of Newark, and that nothing at all led up to that. That seems to be the claim here. Let's see her finish her very measured, very controlled, very scripted, very choreographed media hit this morning.
You are now facing a federal charge, though. Are you afraid of what's going to transpire now?
I mean, it's super unfortunate, Kate, that we have come to this point, in America, that this is what we see happening to leaders who are trying to do their jobs. Rather, it's the mayor of the largest city, rather it's a judge. We've seen this administration come after and attack, leaders for doing their jobs. It's political intimidation, and I will not be intimidated. I expect to continue to do my job.
Right. She was just doing her job. That's her job, what you saw there. By the way, hey, I'm going to be on your show tomorrow morning. What color are you wearing? Taupe? Oh, cool. I'll wear taupe too. We'll be twinsies on camera. Yay. What are the odds? What are the odds? Donald Trump this morning on his way to Capitol Hill to rally support for his big, beautiful bill was asked about the pending arrest of this congresswoman.
Weaponizing with the arrest of a congresswoman, Democratic congresswoman.
Oh, give me a break. Did you see her? She was out of control.
Did you address
Those days are over. The days of woke. The days of woke. No, I didn't. The days of woke are over. That woman, I have no idea who she is. That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
The days of that crap are over. She was out of control. One thing about Trump is that he always tells it like it is. So FAFO, right? She effed A over in front of the detention center and started messing with law enforcement officials. Today, she's effing O. Now, you'll remember that Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was talking a big game the other day, sort of threatening the U.S. Attorney, Alina Habba, and Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, threatening them not to do exactly what they did. You remember what Hakeem said?
Your statement the other day after there was this incident in Newark, you said they better not touch our members.
Correct.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them during the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do?
They'll find out.
Recourse? But doesn't that broach a?
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across?
That's a red line.
What's the red line though? I know we have this.
It's a red line. It's very clear.
So that's a red line. They'll find out. That seems to be the talking point here that was leading up to this. In fact, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez posted her own video basically saying the same thing. Don't FA or you'll FO. Oh, you'll find out. You'll find out. Of course, I don't quite see what they can do. This is like Joe Biden warning Iran, to not support terrorism in the Middle East. Do you have a message for them? Don't what, sir? I'm sorry, I can only do one syllable at a time. Don't. Of course they did, and then nothing happened. And that's pretty much as shallow as this threat is. What's Hakeem Jeffries going to do? He literally has no real power in the House of Representatives, but he thinks that he's going to talk a big game. They'll find out. Well, it's been about 12 hours now. We haven't seen anything. Representative Eric Swalwell, he picked up the exact same talking point. A red line has been crossed. Trump is prosecuting his political enemies in Congress. She may be a political enemy of Donald Trump. Donald Trump claims he has no idea who she is, but let's say she is a political enemy. She's not being prosecuted because she's a political enemy. She may be a political enemy, but that's not the reason for the prosecution. She's being prosecuted because she manhandled a cop. And by the way, she manhandled the cop because she has decided that Donald Trump is her political enemy. That's the entire reason they did this. Where were all the demonstrations in front of detention facilities during the Biden administration when they were overflowing with the hordes of people that were allowed to come here illegally? What about the 300,000 missing children who came here illegally and then were handed over to God knows who or God knows what to do God knows what? And nobody protested. None of these Congress people ever did. Well, because they weren't a political enemy, you see. So the reason they were there was because they've decided Trump's their political enemy. Trump didn't make this woman push a cop. Trump didn't make this woman seemingly assault and resist these police officers. That's not, you can't put that on Trump. And now the Justice Department is doing what the Justice Department's supposed to do, send a message to all criminals and all people in this country that no one is above the law. I've heard that somewhere before, right? Where have I heard that before? That's right. The same guy. They love saying no one's above the law when it's someone like Donald Trump who is facing what they like to call justice. Of course, we all know what those charges were. But hey, no one is above the law, including an insane congresswoman from New Jersey. Here's Swalwell this morning.
In jail for an indefinite amount of time, we can't trust them. So we have to do our oversight duties. And she was in the right to go and do that. And I promise you, there's going to be more unnoticed visits by my colleagues where they show up and they better be let in.
You pointed again, talking a really big game. They better be let in. We've got to do this. We have no choice but to show up unannounced. Well, Representative Swalwell, let me just remind you that if you show up unannounced and you cause a fracas and you cause a melee and you bring a bunch of screaming protesters with you and you try to push through a gate that is being protected by law enforcement, and if you come in contact with those law enforcement officers, well, Congressman, it's the Swalwell standard, as it were. No one's above the law. Congressman Chris Murphy, who has also grown a beard, just like Eric Swalwell and just like Pete Buttigieg, because rugged. He said this morning that this is a really big deal. I watched the tape. This is a political arrest, pure and simple, an attempt to punish members of Congress for doing oversight of Trump's illegality. He's watched the tape. Well, Congressman, so have we. And we're going to watch it again. Watch the woman in red. Boom, boom, boom. I don't think Chris Murphy has really watched the tape, at least not that tape. Because if he had watched that tape, he would have seen exactly what everyone with their own plain eyes can see. That congresswoman impeded, resisted, and assaulted a police officer. You may not think it's a big deal, but when you put your hands on a cop, when you push a cop, that's assault. And you can't do that to a cop. So Senator Murphy says he watched the tape. So did we. And we'll let you decide. And while we're at it, let's take a look at this tape one more time, just to remind ourselves of what's at stake here.
No one is above the law.
Nobody's above the law.
No person is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
You're not above the law. You're not an elite. You're not untouchable. And so it's nice to see that the rule of law has returned.
Hey, it was Swalwell again. That guy, he just finds a way in front of a camera to say all the best things that we can hold against him later. But they're right. No one is above the law. No one ever disputed that notion. The problem is that we were trying to argue that nobody was beneath the law, the way they were prosecuting and in many cases persecuting their political enemies. No one is above the law. We've all looked at the tape. And now, as I said at the top of this segment, this Congresswoman definitely effed O. And now she's in the, wait. Oh, I can't believe I screwed up the whole landing of this segment. Let's try it again. And now, as I said at the top of this segment, that Congresswoman definitely effed A. And now she's effing O. Dang. Well, give me a round of applause anyway. I thought that was fabulous. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. If you like the show, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. We've got 2 more segments. Don't go anywhere. But go over to Town Hall VIP. Town Hall is the presenter of this show, and townhall.com, redstate.com, hotair.com, pjmedia.com, twitchy.com, and bearingarms.com. Those are all of our websites, and we've got a great VIP section over there. You become a VIP member, you get an ad-free experience, you get exclusive content just for VIP members. That includes columns, reports, podcasts, videos, and live streams. Plus, you help our journalism thrive. Go to townhallvip.com. Use my name at checkout, Larry, and you get 50% off. Townhallvip.com, Larry at checkout for 50% off. Thank you so much. I do like Kevin sometimes to remind everybody that I work without a script. And the only way to do that is to mess up.
You FO'd.
I did FO. Hey, don't FA. Maybe it would be easier if I could just say fuck. Wait. God, my timing's good. It would be easier if I could just say around and find out. But all right. FAFO it is. James Comey appeared on MSNBC because that's really a home away from home for him. It was Nicole Wallace doing the interviewing. She's a journalist, don't you know? And of course, he was there to do damage control about his seemingly threatening message he sent on social media that said 8647. Wait, I'm sorry. I got it wrong. Apparently, he wasn't there to do damage control about that. He was there to sell his book. Buy his book, everybody. It was, look at they begin the whole segment with the book. This whole thing was obviously a publicity stunt. And now he's got to be questioned over it. All right. So here's the book. He writes fiction now, don't you know? And he extended the fiction to his recounting of his tale of walking on the beach and finding the offending seashells.
Joining us now, former FBI Director Jim Comey. He's also the author of a new legal thriller, FDR Drive, a crime novel. It's out tomorrow, and we'll get to that. But we start here. You are back in the middle of a political firestorm.
Yeah, for walking on the beach with my wife. So I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me that it was any kind of controversial thing, but that's the time we live in.
Is he a psychopath or a sociopath? That's just weird that he can just act this way. He's so calm and so measured and so just walking on the beach with my wife. But, you know, here you go, you know, Trump era. Am I right? It scares me when people can be this duplicitous and such a disingenuous liar with such a straight face. For those of you who think, oh, it's the big deal, this is just a stunt and we're just feeding the beast and he did this on purpose just to get attention, that may be true. But this is a really important lesson for everyone to learn. This is a teachable moment because the fact that he can so cold-bloodedly lie and pretend like he is the innocent victim here in such an obvious way tells you everything you need to know about what this man did when he was the director of the FBI. And he gave his testimony before the House and the Senate regarding the Russian collusion hoax and the setup of President Trump and the leaks to the media and the lies about what they were really doing and the withholding of information and the operation of an investigation behind the president's back and without disclosing the investigation to Congress like he's supposed to. He was a rogue, renegade FBI director using the full power of the Justice Department against the duly elected president of the United States. And he used a completely fraudulent basis for that investigation that everyone acknowledges is fraudulent, the Russian Steele dossier. He used it to spy on innocent Americans and pulled a FISA warrant on Carter Page, a Naval Academy graduate, a respected veteran of the United States Navy who's never even had a parking ticket in his life. And they targeted him and slimed him with leaks to the media. And he did it all with the same supercilious smile on his face. That's the lesson here. I know we're talking about seashells on the seashore, right? Big deal. But no. When you lie about the little crap, you can easily lie about the big crap. So as you watch this transpire, recognize that this is the same James Comey that you're watching that so easily handled the entire Russian collusion hoax in the exact same manner. And that's what this is really about. But this, God, is just walking on the beach with my wife. What's the big deal? It's chilling, actually, that he is this much of a psychopath. And again, tells us everything we need to know. All right, so let's let this run now for a bit.
So take me back to the walk on the beach.
We were walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which was the launch of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about it. And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, "Why would someone put an address in the sand?" And I said, "I don't know." And we stood over it, and I said, "I think it's some kind of like political message." And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy. But I took it down. Even if I think it's crazy, I don't want to be associated with violence of any kind.
Wow. So let's just be clear here. He's sticking by his story. And he's been questioned by the Secret Service, and one assumes that he told the Secret Service that exact same story. It would be problematic if he told the Secret Service a different story than what he has told publicly. When he was questioned by the Secret Service, that was the moment to come clean and say, all right, yes, I put these shells together and I arranged them and I took the picture. And of course, I knew what it meant. I was just being provocative. I deleted it. No harm, no foul. Let's move on. And by the way, he wouldn't have done this interview, or if he did, he probably should have and would have said the exact same thing because you got to keep your story straight. But he's going to stick with this story, which is problematic for him because whether you think the 8647 is actually an actionable offense with regard to being a credible threat to the president of the United States or to inspire somebody else to do harm to the president of the United States, that's up for debate. What isn't up for debate is if you lie to a federal investigator, you're screwed. You're going away. You know how I know that? It's the Comey standard. That's what this guy did all the time. That's how he got General Mike Flynn, the former national security advisor of President Trump. That's how he got George Papadopoulos, who got caught up in the Russian collusion hoax. That's how he got Martha Stewart, for God's sake. Watch the documentary on Netflix. It's not the crime. It's the cover-up. It's the Comey standard. So now, any bit of evidence that can be revealed from this point forward that shows that either he didn't just stumble across those shells, that he had some knowledge or understanding or even purposefully was responsible himself for arranging those shells, or for that matter, if there is any evidence that can be shown that at any time in his past, he knew full well that there was a violent implication in the term 86, well, now he's lied. He's lied to us. He's lied to federal, assuming that this is the story he's told to the Secret Service. And that could be a very big deal. I also want to remind you that this man was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Rudy Giuliani used to be the U.S. Attorney for the District of New York. Many great lawyers come out as being assistant U.S. attorneys to the Southern District of New York, including very smart Andrew McCarthy at National Review, who helped prosecute the first World Trade Center bombing. When you are working in that office, you become an expert on two important things: radical Islamic terrorism, because it's New York and we've had some attacks there, and the mob. He put mobsters away. He investigated the mafia. And you want to tell me that this guy, former FBI director, and an educated law enforcement official, has never known that the term 86 carries some kind of violent connotation? Yes, it's used in restaurants. Hey, 86 the French fries on table 6. Yeah, we know that. I've never heard the usage of let's 86 this place, like leave this place, but I'm sure he did a really extensive Google search and came up with a thesaurus of definitions for the term 86. But you're supposed to make me believe that the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and the former FBI director has never known that the term 86 carried a violent connotation? All right. Let's watch this cool, calm, collected, completely unflappable James Comey continue talking about how he's just an innocent guy. Why is it always happening to me? I mean, what are you going to do? I'm just trying to live my life, man. By the way, real fast, any kids out there dabbling in social media, opening up an Instagram account, here's a good hint for you going forward. If you see numbers or graffiti or something and you don't know exactly what it means, don't take a picture of it and put it on your social media account. It's kind of a stupid thing to do. Don't do a Comey, okay? Don't do a Comey.
And then what happened?
I got a call from the Secret Service that night asking if I would speak to them about it. Of course. I admire the Secret Service. They're pros. I spoke to them on the phone. Then they asked the next day when I got home, would I be willing to come in and meet them in person at the Washington field office, which again, I did, and they were pros again.
Between posting the picture and getting a call from the Secret Service, did you have any sort of gut check of like, well, they've audited me in an extraordinary way. I was under investigation for years after he fired me. Like, you know, did you have any regret about posting the picture?
Well, I regret the distraction and the controversy around it. But again, it's hard to have regret about something that even in hindsight looks to me to be totally innocent for the reasons you said. But yeah, I didn't have a gut check. In the Trump era, I've been investigated a lot, audited a lot. And so it's not my first rodeo. I'm in some strange way the relationship he can't get over. Maybe because I've lived a happy, productive life since leaving. But this has just been a distraction in that life.
Can you believe the irony of this guy going on MSNBC of all places and Nicole Wallace's show of all places and saying, they just can't get over me. Trump just can't quit me. He can't stop thinking about me. The guy's obsessed with me. This is MSNBC. Their entire programming is Trump. Nicole Wallace, for God's sake. And he's the guy, by the way, who decided to go out of his way to post a picture that said 8647 on his social media. And now he's saying, Trump is just obsessed with me. He can't stop thinking about me. What is wrong with him? Dude, I mean, like I said, sociopath. And again, the fact that he can do this in such a, it's eerie how calm and nonplussed he is. And oh, by the way, buy my book.
Tell us about, take us through all of the ways he sought to investigate you. He's been tweeting about investigating you and prosecuting you, I think, since 2017, shortly after he fired you.
I think that's right. And I intentionally don't keep track of these things, but he has, and I hope no one will, but he has dozens of times called for me to be incarcerated and accused me of all manner of things. And I was investigated repeatedly in a variety of different ways in his first term. I went through the mother of all IRS audits. which cost me thousands of dollars, but I got a $347 refund at the end. Turns out I had overpaid my taxes. But just again and again and again, I really thought that I was done. I was in another life. I was a grandfather and an author wearing, sweaters and jeans. And then I went for a walk on the beach and posted a silly picture of shells that I thought was a clever way to express a political viewpoint. And actually, I still think it is. I don't see it the way some people are still saying it is. But again, I don't want any part of any violence. I've never been associated with violence. And so that's why I took it down.
So your position, even after all of this, the Secret Service calling you and bringing you in for questioning, is that the phrase, the message on the shells was political speech and is political speech.
Yeah, by somebody. I actually didn't think of it as political speech by me, but I thought, what a clever way to express a political view. The shells were the same color for each of the letters, so different colors for the letters. It took a lot of work. Somebody with artistic flair did that, and I have a hard time believing it was anybody with a dark intention, and it certainly was no dark intention on my part, on my spouse's part.
I have to ask you this. I mean, this cabinet is made up of totally different people. There is someone atop the national intelligence communities who said this.
Do you believe Comey should be in jail?
I do. Any other person with the position of influence that he has, people who take very seriously what a guy of his stature, his experience, and what the propaganda media has built him up to be, I'm very concerned for the president's life. We've already seen assassination attempts. I'm very concerned for his life. And James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable and put behind bars for this.
So she's the head. She sits atop all of the intelligence agencies in this country. And I wonder what you thought and what you think people around the world thought when they saw that.
Yeah, I just jump in here. It's funny. I don't mean to criticize a colleague who has her own show on a very different network and is involved with, presenting topics and analysis to her audience in a very different way than I present to my audience. But I also interview people. Funny, after playing that clip, I would lean over and ask a slightly different question. Like, she kind of has a point, doesn't she? Former Director Comey. I mean, after all, this is a president who just months ago had an assassination attempt on his life that missed his skull by a fraction of a millimeter. I mean, even if you didn't mean anything by it, the implications of what you did could, in fact, inspire something horrible to happen to the president, especially considering your reputation. I mean, we boost you up here all the time. We call you America's last great honest cop. You're a Boy Scout. You yourself wrote a book that said you have a higher loyalty, as if you answer directly to God or something instead of the Constitution. So when you do something like that and you yourself admit that it was a political message, whether it was a violent political message or not, should still be investigated. But she does have a point. You shouldn't mess around with stuff like this with a guy who has so many bloodthirsty enemies that you've helped drum up, right? I mean, kind of a wordy leading question, but again, so was hers. But instead, the question has to be about Tulsi Gabbard. Not what he did, not the fact that Trump has already barely dodged the bullet, literally, with an assassination attempt. No. The question to James Comey is, don't you agree with me that Tulsi Gabbard is awful? What do you think, Jim? Tell me.
I hope people know enough about that particular person that they understand where it's coming from. It says something more depressing about the leadership of our current administration. And I just shrug because that's ridiculous.
Does it make you scared?
No.
Why?
Well, it's not my first rodeo. I would hate something like this, or the audit, or all the investigations, to happen to someone who doesn't have my experience, because I look at it and I think there's another one of those. But when it's one of the real problems we have in this country right now is the use of the president's power aiming at individuals who don't have my background or experience, like a Chris Krebs or any others that have been targeted, law firms being targeted. This is a real problem that people should not look past. My thing, to me, and I hope to everybody else, is just a distraction that goes away in a weekend, but there's something much more important going on here. The use of power to aim at individuals eroding the rule of law.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of us have been talking about, Jim, for many years. That's why Donald Trump won the election, actually, because he was the victim of a lot of that. And so were over 1,000 people on January 6th. And so were a lot of people who just posted their opinion about the COVID shot and about mask policy and about whether suddenly there are millions and millions of extra votes in one standout election that never showed up before and didn't show up again. But yeah, we wouldn't want those people to be afraid of political targeting or anything. Also, one other thing, did you notice how neither of them actually used Tulsi Gabbard's name? Right? There's an othering that goes on, this dehumanizing thing that these people do for those that they find unacceptable, odious, and unworthy of even having a name. It's gross. It's disrespectful. And, well, it's the kind of thing that leads people to treating their political opponents, people that they disagree with, in a way that is dehumanizing and, well, leads to violence, frankly. This is all part of a pattern of behavior that we see. And I love that Comey's takeaway from all of this, or Nicole Wallace's takeaway, is that James Comey should be afraid. Are you afraid? Why aren't you afraid? Again, any mention of the fact that Donald Trump just, 9 months ago almost had a bullet in his brain? And how this kind of behavior connects to and inspires more of their viewers to try to take another shot? It's absolutely outrageous that they don't even see that. They don't even consider it. And it's a little scary. By the way, to that end, Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, posted late yesterday, "We're now dealing with copycats sending cryptic threats to public figures using the 86 reference. Whether they turn out to be legitimate threats or not, taxpayer-funded public safety agents are going to have to run these all out and investigate them. It's a reminder of the damage self-serving individuals with a history of extremely poor judgment can do when they fail to control their impulses." 3 guesses who he's talking about. And that is another real danger here, that suddenly you're going to see all these copycats who continue to call for violence. And the more copycats you see, the more vulnerable, unhinged, sociopathic individuals will see those copycats and, God forbid, take action into their own hands. But with all due respect, Deputy Director Bongino, one way to send a clear message here to those copycats and to make sure that you stem the tide of people thinking that it's okay to do this is to go after the guy who did it and make him feel a punishment for it. I'm not saying what he did was against the law. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, if James Comey were the director of the FBI right now and somebody did this to a president that he was aligned with, he would find something to go after him for. That would be a misuse of the FBI, misuse of the law. I get it. That's the Comey standard. And it's funny how Comey himself never actually has to suffer from the weight of the Comey standard. All right. Ooh, can you hear the Blue Angels flying over? Probably not. I can. It's the graduation week for the Naval Academy, so we got the Blue Angels flying. It's very cool. Something amazing happened in Los Angeles yesterday. Bill Malugin, who used to be at the local Fox station in LA, now he's a national reporter for Fox News. He has the story. Take a look at this. It's amazing, unprecedented, actually, in the last 15, 20 years. Here.
In a Fox exclusive, you're watching an incredibly rare interaction as the jail in Los Angeles transfers an illegal alien to ICE custody. The sanctuary jurisdiction forced to hand this Mexican national over thanks to a first-of-its-kind federal operation.
With this operation, we're going to be neutralizing California sanctuary state policies.
Bill Asaley is the U.S. attorney in L.A. and the architect of Operation Guardian Angel.
California is the testing ground on this. We are one of the largest sanctuary jurisdictions.
All right, guys, thanks for circling up.
So how does it work? Issaili has created a federal task force made up of ICE, HSI, FBI, DEA, and ATF, all working together out of this office in downtown LA.
How's his criminal history? He's got the domestic violence.
They scan these criminal databases daily to find illegal aliens in local jails who have been previously deported from the United States.
We have a warrant for your arrest.
If they've returned to the U.S., they've committed a federal felony known as illegal reentry. And Issaili's office will immediately seek a criminal arrest warrant against them, which, unlike an ICE detainer, sanctuary jails can't ignore.
We're going to flood the system with warrants for criminal illegal immigrants that are in county jails. They can ignore a detainer, but they cannot ignore a criminal arrest warrant.
The federal task force brought us with them as they went to Twin Towers Jail in downtown LA to take custody of a previously deported alien they found in their database and filed a warrant on. He was facing local charges for robbery, but the sanctuary jail immediately handed him over to ICE, with California's sanctuary policies unable to protect him from the criminal warrant.
They have no choice. They will comply. And if they don't comply, if they interfere in our ability to arrest a federal felon, they can expect to face consequences.
And the task force tells us once they're up and running at full steam, they project they're going to be able to arrest between 40 and 50 aliens from local sanctuary jails here in SoCal every single week. Now, if this is successful here in Los Angeles, the task force says this could be used as a model to neutralize other sanctuary jurisdictions all across the country, guys. We'll send it back to you.
You bet. Bill Melugin live in Los Angeles with that for us. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you indeed. And thank you to the new administration. This is and that U.S. attorney in Los Angeles. It's brilliant to see. And this is the use of the law to actually have an ironclad way of getting the bad guys out of here. I understand something. Were it not for this U.S. attorney and this novel way of ensuring that these criminals are being arrested, handled over to federal authorities, and then eventually prosecuted and deported, Democrats, let's just be clear. Sorry, I know a lot of people hate, no, it's always partisan, it's always Republican, Democrat. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. Democrats who run Los Angeles, one-party rule, run the state of California, one-party rule, Democrats would have those criminals do their time in the local county or state penitentiary, and then they'd be walking on the streets again. If they had their way, that's exactly what they would do. Because as far as they're concerned, nobody should be deported. These are people who have not only been deported once, but they entered the country illegally again and then committed crimes. They've got them in custody. And if they had their way, they would just stay. Keep the criminals. Absolutely. Keep them here because, Maryland man, right? And by the way, because they've set up sanctuary policies, what they've done right now with these sanctuary policies is they've told local law enforcement that they do not have to cooperate with ICE, federal officials, with regard to a deportation order, right? And so the way that's played out is that orderly transfer of a prisoner that you just saw in handcuffs from one law enforcement entity to a federal law enforcement entity handled within the safe confines of a jail. Instead, what happens is they let the person out. They go into a neighborhood down in South Central LA or East LA. ICE agents go to get them there. They have to bring 20 because it's an unsafe situation. They face potential danger and potential violence when they go and knock on a door and try to go in and apprehend the person. Oh, and by the way, when they go into that house to apprehend the one criminal that could have been transferred peacefully in the jail, well, when they go into that house, everybody there is now subject to deportation. And everyone in that house has their IDs checked, has their papers checked. And if they were there harboring a criminal and they're here in the country illegally, they are now facing deportation. So the very thing the Democrats are trying to prevent from happening happens specifically because of their sanctuary policies. But the reason this works is because this is not a federal deportation order that the local law enforcement is ignoring. This is a criminal warrant. And if they resist or ignore a criminal warrant, they go to jail. So they're going to follow this. It's absolutely brilliant. You know how I know it's brilliant? Because it's making all the right people sad.
Don't feel well. This woman, who we will call Maria, says she did not want to use her real name, concerned she could be targeted. But she does want people to know her story.
No deseo ir para atrás.
She told us, I don't want to go back. She's the mother of 3 children who are American citizens. She asked us not to show them. Maria arrived from Honduras in February of 2005. 2 months later, she had an order to leave the country after not appearing at a hearing, but she never left. I asked her why she did not go to the hearing.
Yo le dije al oficial, yo no tengo familia.
I told the immigration officer I don't have any family in this country or a specific place to stay. She told me she entered the U.S. through California.
Pero en ningún momento me llegaron ningún documento.
I never received any document, and they did not know where I was going to be. This month, she received this letter at her house in South Florida. She has been fined for more than $1.82 million.
It says that the government could fine an individual, an undocumented individual, daily $500.
Michelle Sanchez is Maria's attorney. She showed us the document Maria received.
They're supposed to say on the date that she was advised, and this is blank because they never advised her of the penalties.
Okay.
So that's going to be my argument.
The 1952 Act has historically rarely been enforced, but in February, the Trump administration announced it will penalize people living in the U.S. illegally under that act.
What she has is an order of removal in her absence.
Is that still accumulating even today?
Yes. It's
So
still
that figure
accumulating.
is increasing.
It could increase. For me, that is absolutely nuts.
Sanchez filed a motion to reopen her client's case last year under a policy of the Biden administration, giving ICE attorneys the discretion to reopen cases and lift removal orders. Have you ever been arrested?
Nunca.
When I asked her if she would voluntarily return to her home country,
Me dolería tanto dejar mis hijos.
it would be extremely painful to be separated from my children. This is their country. This is all they know. Please have mercy. I want to stay with them.
Okay, so a couple things about this report, and the most important thing is right at the very beginning. So let's listen to it again, shall we?
Feel well. This woman, who we will call Maria, says she did not want to use her real name, concerned she could be targeted. But she does want people to know her story.
No deseo ir para atrás.
She told us, I don't want to go back. She's the mother of 3 children who are American citizens. She asked us not to show them. Maria arrived from Honduras in February of 2005.
Okay, there it is. 2005. 20 years. She's been in the country 20 years. Now, you may hear that and say, wow, she's been here 20 years. Let her stay. She's established herself. She's put her roots down. You know, some people will hear that. I hear it and I think, holy crap, 20 years? You've been in the country 20 years? You should have been deported over a decade ago. By the way, just as an aside, she's been here 20 years and she still doesn't speak English? Not even one word? Not even, I mean, forgive me, but if you're going to be in a country for 20 years where the native language is English, don't you think you should learn that language? I would like to think that if I go to a foreign country and live there for 20 years, I will learn their language. So much so that if I'm interviewed by a reporter 20 years later, I can actually conduct myself in the country's native language. But let's set that aside for a second. She's been in the country 20 years illegally. 2 months after she entered the country illegally, she was supposed to appear for a hearing, and she didn't show. Now, what have we been hearing from Democrats for the last 3 months now about the Trump administration's use of the law, existing law? This is an existing law they're using to find this woman and deport her. What have we been hearing all the time? Due process. Due process. Where's the due process? They should have due process. Everyone deserves due process. Well, guess what? This is due process. She came into the country illegally. She was ordered to come for a hearing. 2 months later, the hearing happened. She never showed. That's it. She's done. That's due process. You don't show up for your hearing, you don't get a makeover. You don't get a do-over. You try that with a parking ticket. Try it with a speeding ticket. Try it with an IRS audit. You can't get away with it. How come they can? I know that report was set up to show some sort of sympathy and say, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Look what's happening. Listen, I get it. She's not going to pay $1.2 million in fines. Here's what's going to happen. Okay, listen, we can settle this. You want to settle? Okay, of course, we'll settle this. Pay us $1.2 million or hear me out, self-deport. Go home. Just go home. And maybe if you go home yourself, we'll have a way of figuring out how to bring you back. Oh, you don't want to be separated from your children? That's fine. They can go with you. Sorry. For those of you who think that that's cold and heartless and it's terrible policy, you have a point. Blame Joe Biden. Blame Kamala Harris. Blame Alejandro Mayorkas. If they had actually effectively enforced our laws and not allowed millions and millions and millions and millions of people come into this country, then this wouldn't be necessary. Don't blame the people who are actually finally enforcing the laws on the books. That's not how this works. All right, so more people are crying because the law is being enforced. You want to see more cries, more tears? Okay.
One of them, Carlos, narrowly avoided being caught. Speaking through an interpreter, he described the emotional toll.
When I started seeing the scene, I started crying. The tears started leaving. We're here. We're human beings. We're only here to support ourselves and to maintain our families.
According to Carlos and other witnesses, the raid unfolded just around 8 a.m. as ICE agents arrived in both marked and unmarked vehicles, rounding up workers from the parking lot.
It took 15 to 20 day laborers who were only here asking for work. It is unjust, it is immoral, and it should be a crime.
The raid sparked swift backlash.
Hold on a second. So, oh, wow, those are really professionally printed signs you organic and spontaneous protesters have. And what's with the face masks outside years after the pandemic? I think we know what's with the face masks. They don't want you to know their identity. That should be against the law. Really impressive professional signs. So let's be clear here. The law enforcement officials who are actually enforcing our law, they're the ones who are acting criminally. You got to be a member of the organized left or a member of the media or have some sort of advanced degree from one of America's liberal arts colleges to figure out the rational logic behind that statement. What they're doing should be against the law. They're literally enforcing the law. Literally. These are ICE agents who are finding people who are in the country illegally, rounding them up, and deporting them. And there's a key piece of evidence here that's going to enforce the reason why they should be deported. Okay, let's watch this real fast. It's a short clip, and it's only in the first half here. But let's see, since you're a regular viewer of this program, if you can pick up on the clue that should actually be the perfect piece of evidence to fast track their deportation. Right? Watch.
Carlos narrowly avoided being caught. Speaking through an interpreter, he described the emotional toll.
When I started seeing the scene, I started crying. The tears started leaving. We're here. We're human beings. We're only here to support ourselves and to maintain our families.
We're, by the way, I like the Bitcoin hat. You buying crypto, dude? Day labor at Home Depot with Bitcoin. We're only here to get a job and to support our families. That's the clue. Because, see, you watch this show, you know that entering this country illegally is against the law. And you know that the only reason we were told that people can stay here is because they have an asylum claim and they want to have a hearing so that they can get asylum status as refugees. And you also know that the only grounds for refugee status and asylum in America have to do with you're fleeing your country because you're being persecuted due to your race, due to your religion, or if you're fleeing political prosecution and political persecution, or if there was a natural disaster. The one major reason that you cannot claim asylum, that will be rejected out of hand, that would just get sent out of the courtroom straight to the bus and right back to your home country, is if you claim refugee status or the desire for asylum because of economic conditions. Because, hear me out, if we granted refugee status and asylum to every single individual on planet Earth that needs economic relief from their conditions, we would be opening up our borders to 97% of the population. You may have a terrible financial situation and employment situation in your country. I'm sorry for that. And honestly, you should probably do something to change the conditions in your country if you can. But you do not have the right to come to our country to better your economic conditions. The second you tell a judge that that's why you're here, I'm sorry, you're gone. And they just admitted it. They think that that's some sort of like great defense. Why are they coming after us to deport us? We're only here to get a job and have a better life. Oh, goodbye. Because you don't come here illegally and jump the line and screw all the people who were trying to come here legally for the very same reason. You don't do that. And if you admit to it, which you just did, dude, through an interpreter, you're gone. You're 100% gone. And it drives me insane that the organized left, elected officials in the Democrat Party, and people in the media don't know that. See, if I were producing this report for Channel 7 in Los Angeles, I would have had my anchor or my reporter in the narration say, of course, anyone in the country illegally for purely economic reasons are subject to deportation immediately, because that's the truth. That's the fact. That's the law. And they just admitted to it. Now, Tom Homan, your border czar, was on Fox and Friends this morning, and he picked up these stories about various different efforts of the Trump administration to enforce our existing laws and deporting people. And he has some advice for people who are seeing these reports, and they're brought to tears as well, and they're worried and they're scared that ICE and DHS is coming after them next. He has advice for you. Take a watch.
Because if they don't, they're going to face serious consequences. You know, what we started doing, we're enforcing two laws that we haven't enforced in a long time. Number one, failing to register. If you don't fail to register after 90 days of being here, we're going to prosecute you criminally. Then we're going to deport you. And if you hinder your arrest, if you don't open the door, if you don't answer our questions, if you don't assist in travel documents to your home nation after being ordered deported by the immigration judge, we're going to prosecute you for that, which is 8 U.S.C. 1253. So we'll prosecute you. We'll put you in prison. When you get out, we'll deport you. We're not playing games. There are going to be consequences. Leave on your own. If you leave on your own and work with us, you can get your affairs in order. It makes sense for them and their families. And leave yourself an opportunity to come back to this country as a visitor or as a student, or if you have a U.S. citizen child, they can petition for you as a parent of a U.S. citizen. There are other avenues to come to this country the right way. But if we have to formally deport you, we got to go find you, and we got to put you on a plane and formally deport you. There are consequences. There are bars from 5 years to 20 years. You can't come back. Some of the bars are forever. So leave on your own. And give yourself some opportunity in the future to be part of the greatest country on earth.
That's the bottom line. And that's a clear message. And it's the perfect solution to all of those tears. Are you worried? Are you scared? You're upset? Okay, we can alleviate all of those fears. Get your affairs in order, check in with DHS, and let them know you're leaving, and leave. And then you can go through the process of coming in legally if you so choose. That's the bottom line. And again, it may seem harsh. It may seem horrible. Don't blame Trump for actually enforcing the law. You don't like those laws? Hey, run politicians to get into Congress and change the law. Love to see you try. Maybe you should run someone for president who will promise not to enforce laws. Oh, you just did that, didn't you? And we see how that worked out for you. But that's the only solution. Blame the last president for ignoring our laws. They create the chaos that we're in right now. That's how we get here. That's how we get here. You don't like the fact that the laws are being robustly enforced with not as much compassion as you would like? Well, first of all, I think it's pretty uncompassionate to the people who are trying to come into this country illegally, trying to get into this country legally. Why don't you have compassion for them? And I also certainly think that you're not showing much compassion for the people who can't find work because the jobs are going to lower wage people from other countries, or, of course, the victims of crimes of illegal immigrants who come into this country against our laws. Maybe you should show some compassion for them, but the compassion only seems to go in one direction. But if you think that it's bad, that the law is being enforced without any level of compassion, fine. Take it out on Joe Biden. Take it out on Kamala Harris. Take it out on Alejandro Mayorkas. Take it out on Gavin Newsom. Take it out on your J.B. Pritzker in Illinois. Take it out on Kathy Hochul in New York. Take it out on all of the elected officials who are trying to ignore the law. The best way to avoid all of this is to be a nation of laws and follow those laws and enforce those laws. Otherwise, you get chaos. And now you're seeing what happens. Oh, and one other thing. We keep hearing from Democrats who are fear-mongering and trying to invoke all of these tiers, trying to terrify people that there's nothing stopping them from coming after you. There's nothing stopping them from coming after you. They're going to find you and they're going to send you to a foreign country. And if you look like you're from a foreign country, if you don't speak English, even though you're supposed to be here, it doesn't matter. You don't get due process. They're going to send you away. Really? Okay. Well, we actually have a case study in that coming out of Boston, where there was a Brazilian American who was detained by ICE. Here's what happened.
Despite being detained, the 31-year-old says he still supports the work being done by ICE agents.
I showed them my ID, my passport, and my picture, and they confirmed that it was not me. They're doing their job. I still support what they're doing. Unfortunately, they called the wrong person, but I still support whatever they're doing. And I voted for Trump, and there are a lot of bad people in this country, to be honest with you, because they don't deserve to be here.
That's right. It's that simple. Look at that. That dude was like perped away with the cuffs. They thought he was somebody else. They thought he was here illegally. They thought he was a criminal. He said, no, give me a chance. Showed his ID, showed his documentation, said that he's here legally, said that he's a citizen, mistaken identity. And they said, oh, okay, we apologize. Thank you. And he said, no, thank you. Thank you, because I want this criminal to come out of here too. Good for Boston for actually running the story. You don't see much of that, do you? Nor will you. It's really a simple equation, guys. You want a better life, you want a better job, you want to help support your family economically because the country you're in is terrible. First step, fix your country. Okay, you can't do that, and you can't win. Trust me, I've been there. My ideas don't always win in elections, right? So you can't do that. Then you petition to go to another country where life can be better for you legally. But you come here illegally and think that you can break our laws because you want a job and money? Well, if we let you do that, we will eventually be just as lawless and corrupt as the country you are fleeing. And then where will we be? Follow the law. We'll enforce the law. And everything will work out. That's how Western civilization operates. Get used to it. I know it's been a while, but we're back. All right, guys, thank you for watching the show today. I can't believe I had so many brain farts there at the beginning of the show. Can I say brain farts? Thank you. Angela, $5 super chart. The officer should tell her Oompa Loompa Doompity Doo. This is what happens when you put your hands on me. I'm going to keep singing the Oompa Loompa song. What happened to No One Is Above the Law? Yeah, well, we sort of did the No One Is Above the Law meme there quite a bit. Thank you, Angela. Good point. Bruce Langworthy, $10 super chat for applause. Thank you, Bruce. Nice professional headshot there, too. I think the applause is for the arrest of the Congresswoman McIver, right? I think so. Angela, $2. Swallow well. You should be in jail for Fang Fang. Yeah, because no one's above the law, although he was beneath Fang Fang there. So, Angela, $2 super chat. Why are Comey's daughter and son-in-law still at DOJ? That's a good question. She's a major prosecutor there. I think also in the Southern District of New York. I wonder if his daughter knows what 86 means. Thank you, Angela. Actually, I think she's in D.C. Now that I say it, forgive me. I don't think it's Southern District of New York. Angela, $5 super chat. I'm sorry, I can't have compassion for illegals. There are migrants who are trying to come the right way. They can't because of millions of illegals. That is correct. The compassion is always in one direction, and it's always placed in the direction of the people who are breaking our laws. It's almost like the organized left want our laws broken. It's almost like they want chaos in our society. It's almost like that's the story of Marxism throughout world history. Break the system, break the laws, create chaos, and then you end up waltzing in as the solution. But it ain't happening here, my friends. No, it ain't. Not as long as we have a First Amendment and we can keep calling them out. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow. Do I have anything to plug?
No.
How about Kurt Schlichter's book?
Sure.
All right. Nothing else to plug. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, I'm sitting in for Sean Spicer on the morning meeting over on the two-way platform with Mark Halprin and Dan Torrentine. If you like your DC politics, it's a fun show. Otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Thanks for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.